Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Comic Book Wednesday comic book update. Yeah. So this time around, I got a pair of epic collections that are kind of related. So let's check them out today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Now, first up, as most of you will know, I've been collecting this particular series of epic collections for a while, and, well, the latest edition came out. We are, of course, talking about The Incredible Hulk. In this case, it's volume 13, covering 1984 to 1985. Most notably, this includes the quite lengthy storyline Crossroads, in which Doctor Strange banishes the Hulk from Earth to another dimension, and it's like a year's worth of Hulk comics of him trying to battle his way back. But it's a classic storyline with wonderful artwork by Sal Buscema, and it's just fantastic. It's notable for me because back in the day, I got, one Christmas, I got an Eaton's box. I remember this distinctly. That's a Canadian department store chain that no longer exists. But it was an Eaton's box that had just a big stack of Marvel comics in it. And one of them was this one, issue number 305 of The Incredible Hulk, in which he is at the Crossroads and has to fight the UFOs. Quite a fun story. I enjoyed it a lot. And it wasn't long after that I ended up collecting the Hulk on a regular basis. Specifically, starting with... where the hell is it? Hold on a second. Is it 312, I think? Yeah, it was this one. Issue 312, which I ended up picking up because it was a Secret Wars 2 crossover. Can you see that? Yeah. Secret Wars 2 was, of course, the sequel to the previous year's 12-issue miniseries, The Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, which was, a pretty big hit. So the following year they did a 9-issue follow-up, but in epic fashion, where it crossed over into every single major title in the Marvel Universe. So, where the previous year, my introduction to current goings-on with Marvel Comics was that Eaton's box full of comics, some of which I ended up continuing to collect. Like there was an X-Men issue in there, there was an issue of ROM Space Knight, and a few others. But it was just this nice little stack of comics, whatever was on the rack the month before. And I think it was one of my aunts picked it up for me because she knew I liked comic books, so that was great. So one of them was Hulk number 305. 7 months passed. I started collecting Secret Wars 2. And now the thing is, I'm not usually big on crossovers, but this was one of the first times ever that they'd ever done something like this. So it was kind of special. So I actually collected not only the 9 issues of the main series, but every single crossover. So over the course of those 9 months, there was the 9 issues of the main miniseries and about 40 crossover issues. Never again. Never did that again. But for that one, I got the whole thing, the whole works, and loved it. And in the course of that, well, I guess it had its desired effect as far as marketing goes and cross-promotion goes, because I ended up starting to collect a number of the titles that came out of that, one of which was The Incredible Hulk. So Incredible Hulk came out, I got issue 312 or whatever it was, with the crossover. I missed the next issue, 313, and picked up again with... this one here, issue 314, which was when John Byrne took over for a nice little 6-issue run. Very, very cool. So this one is the volume that immediately precedes this one, which is volume 14, Going Gray. And a lot of big changes in this issue as well. So between these two comics and some of the earlier editions, because I did also go and collect some old back issues of Hulk. I had issue 102, the big premiere issue, and then several of the issues that followed. I had about the first year's worth or so of the original series. when it became a regular series again after Tales to Astonish. And then I was collecting the modern ones, essentially, as they came out. And I collected them for a few years and really enjoyed it. So anyway, now, the reason I mention all this is between all of the Epic collections, this was all that remained for stuff that I used to have. Actually, that's not entirely true. There's one more issue. I have issue 271, which is the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon. It's not actually the first appearance, but it's the first appearance of the Rocket Raccoon that we know, that later became the basis of the miniseries, which later became the basis of the Rocket we know from Guardians of the Galaxy. Anyway, other than that one stray issue, which I still have the original of anyway, all of these Epic collections make up all of the Hulk comics that I collected back in the day. So now I've got them in nice, handy-dandy collected editions with remastered color and glossy paper, and they're just beautiful. I love them. Ah, yes, there's one other issue I neglected to mention here. I don't know why I forgot, but specifically this one, issue number 296 of The Incredible Hulk. You may notice a familiar character appearing on the cover of this one. Wonderful cover by Bill Sienkiewicz again. I swear he was everywhere in the 80s. That is, of course, ROM Space Knight, and this was a pretty big crossover issue where ROM figured pretty heavily into the main story. Now, at this point in the ROM comics, it was coming to the end of the war with the Dire Wraiths. It was quite an epic affair at the time because this war had been primary focus of the ROM series, and ROM, of course, was very heavily a part of the Marvel Universe. There were guest appearances from other Marvel characters all the time. So when it got towards the end of the war with the Dire Wraiths, all of the Marvel Universe became involved with it. I mean, this was hot on the heels of the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, so this was kind of the other big event that occurred around that time, was all the Marvel heroes teaming up with ROM to finally defeat the Dire Wraiths, and it was fantastic. But it meant that ROM was crossing over into a lot of the other Marvel comics at the time. So this particular issue was significant because he used some of his signature devices, such as his analyzer, to analyze the Hulk, and came to understand him in a way that he had never had before, and it was quite good. So I do still have this individual issue. I think I have it as a part of my ROM collection. I actually have the full run of 75 issues, 4 annuals, and the smattering of crossovers that they did as well. So I was kind of curious. I noticed that volume 13 of the Epic collection starts with issue 297. So I was kind of wondering, well, how are they going to handle issue 296? I mean, that's going to be presumably in volume 12 of the Epic collections whenever they get around to doing them. What are they going to do? So taking a look at the official Marvel website, this is the cover they have on the official Marvel website, which is basically just a shot from Hulk's fight with Max Hammer in this issue. It was sort of the primary conflict in this issue, while Rom was kind of watching and helping a little bit from the sidelines. So I'm kind of wondering, did they just sort of edit around all of Rom's appearances and we have like a super truncated version of that issue? Is this how it's going to appear in the Epic collection? It is such a shame what happened with ROM. Let me just throw this in as an aside, because I loved ROM. After I got that issue in the Eaton's box that Christmas, I went and hunted down all the back issues. By the way, those comics I showed you earlier, the X-Men and ROM issue, those are the ones that I got in that box. So it was issue 64 of ROM and issue 190 of X-Men. So anyway, I read that issue of ROM, and it was like the issue before the end of the Dire Wraith War. So I had no context, no history. It was just this epic thing going on. So over the course of the next couple years, I would go to the Silver Snail and tracked down all the back issues and got a complete set after a while, and it was fantastic. And it's a series I've gone back to and reread several times over the years. However, it's unfortunate that I guess there's some kind of big rights entanglement where they can't just reprint the ROM issues because they don't have the rights to the character anymore. I don't know if it's a case where they don't know specifically who has the rights or what, but then again, IDW did a ROM series recently, just kind of doing it as their own thing and being careful to not step on the toes of anything that was specifically Marvel created. But the problem is, of course, Marvel put ROM in the Marvel Universe. So countless characters from the Marvel Universe, countless Marvel-owned characters appear in that comic, and as a result, I guess we're just never going to see reprints of it unless they can get the rights back to the ROM toy character. I don't know why it's such a big issue. I mean, the comics are nearly 40 years old. Actually over 40 years old. It came out, I think, originally in 1978 or 79, the original toy, and yeah, just double checked. It was 1979 when it came out, and I mean, the comic far outlived the toys, so I don't know what the problem is. It's obviously somebody just saying no somewhere in the chain of command there and just throwing a big old wrench into the works. So it's unfortunate, and what it means is any issues that guest starred ROM or the Dire Wraiths or anything like that, we're likely never going to see reprints of unless some enterprising person decides to go through the tangled web of rights management to figure it out. I was really hoping when IDW did their ROM comics that maybe we'd get reprints of the Marvel ones, but I think the problem was, as I say, there's just so many Marvel characters that appear in it, it's just a rights entanglement nightmare. Really, the only company that could ever realistically do it would be Marvel, and only if it's something that they're interested in pursuing and, you know, shelling out the cash for the rights to the character again. It's really unfortunate, and you know, some of these epic collections are going to suffer slightly for it because it means they won't be truly complete, because all of the ROM appearances and references will be omitted. So, what is in this volume? We have Incredible Hulk numbers 297 through 313, Annual number 13, and Alpha Flight number 29. You may have noticed cover scans going up over there showing you everything that's in this book. I always like to do that when I do the Epic Collection overviews or updates, just to give you kind of a visual look at what all is in them. So, really good edition. Really looking forward to diving in there and sort of reading the entire storyline of Crossroads, which I've never read before. And it's kind of one of the famous storylines from that era. So, very cool. And then when I finish that, I can go straight on into this one. So, you know, there you go. Meanwhile, there is a 7th volume of the Incredible Hulk Epic Collections coming out, which picks up right where the earlier volumes leave off. So I have the first 6. Volume 7's coming out. Volume 7 is notable because it's the one that introduces Wolverine. Yeah, Wolverine's very first appearance was in a Hulk comic, 2-part story. And, yeah, so I'll definitely be picking that one up when it comes out. And then they got another, what is it? They've reprinted one of the other ones. There was 4 more volumes, 19, 20, 21, and 22, which covered a good chunk of Peter David's run. But all of those are out of print now. They're reprinting one of them later this year or early next year, I think. I can't remember which one. I think it's volume 19, but or 21, or 20, or 22. I don't remember. Anyway, it's one of those 4, so I'm hoping the other 3 get reprints as well, because when those were coming out originally, I just wanted to focus on the old stuff, like the original 60s and 70s comics, because that was what I was most interested in, was kind of the origins of the Hulk. But I've been enjoying them so much, I was like, shit, I wish I'd got the other ones too. So now, of course, they're all out of print, but they're starting to slowly, you know, we're starting to get a trickling of reprints, so hopefully I can fill in those gaps with the reprints. I'm not overly concerned about, you know, which printing I get of these. I mean, they're reprint editions anyway, right? I'm just buying them to read them. I don't really care about value so much, but, you know, I still keep them in nice condition. So, having got the Hulk collection, you know, under control again, I thought it was about time I dove into the adventures of Bruce Banner's cousin, Jennifer Walters, with She-Hulk. Yeah, so here we have the first epic collection of She-Hulk. This is volume 3, covering 1989 to 1990. So this is not the first iteration of She-Hulk, which was this one here, which is the Savage She-Hulk. Yeah, that was quite different. That was basically just literally a female Hulk. And apparently the reason they came up with that in the first place was because of the Incredible Hulk TV series, which was on at the time. And they thought, they were looking at how the $6 Million Man had come out, and then the network did a female version of the $6 Million Man to kind of further cash in on the success of the original. So they were concerned that with there being a Hulk TV series, but no female version of the Hulk, that the TV network might take it upon themselves to do a female Hulk. So Stan Lee stepped in and said, let's just do our own now, right now, because we want to make sure that if there is a female Hulk, that we own the rights to it. Smart thinking. So Stan Lee came up with this, the Savage She-Hulk. For issue 1 of that series is her first appearance, so it literally just came out of nowhere because of concern that the TV network would scoop the rights to a female Hulk. It's kind of funny now because, of course, they sold the television and movie rights of the Hulk to Universal, and at the moment, Marvel does not fully own the Hulk as far as screen adaptations go. So it's kind of funny how that all worked out in the end, how they ended up losing a bunch of rights to the Hulk anyway. But hey, at least they got She-Hulk, and we got that wonderful Disney Plus series now too. So She-Hulk, so this one is notable because when She-Hulk originally came out, as I say, it was essentially just a female Hulk. I mean, certain aspects of the character as we know her were intact, i.e. she could control her transformations and she would retain her intelligence and so forth when she transformed. But the original comics were basically fairly straightforward superhero fare. It was just a female version of the Hulk, the difference being she retained her intelligence. But it was basically just, a lot of superhero fights and She-Hulk smash and whatnot. So it wasn't until, when was it? 1989. Technically it was 1985 when they did a graphic novel called The Sensational She-Hulk. That is not in this volume. I think that'll be in volume 2 whenever they get around to putting those out, going back and doing the first 2 volumes. They don't publish the Epic collections in order, as you might have noticed. So they did the graphic novel called The Sensational She-Hulk in 1985, and it was fairly popular. So it wouldn't be for another 4 years until we'd see She-Hulk come back in a solo series again under the same title, The Sensational She-Hulk. So what this book has is, let's see, we have the first 12 issues of Sensational She-Hulk, She-Hulk Ceremony 1 and 2, which was a 2-part prestige format series they did, like square-bound series, and material from Solo Avengers number 14, Marvel Comics Presents number 18, and Marvel Fanfare number 48. So, the original graphic novel of Sensational She-Hulk was written and drawn by John Byrne, and the first 8 issues of Sensational She-Hulk, the regular series, were also written and drawn by John Byrne. And he did some of the other, short stories and whatnot as well. I think he did the Marvel Fanfare issue as well. But the thing that's important about this, and why this is relevant, and especially in the wake of the show, is this is the She-Hulk that we know and love today. She-Hulk, much like Deadpool, is a fourth wall breaking character. She directly addresses the reader. She gets into like blazing arguments with John Byrne about the direction the story's taking. And sometimes she literally busts out of the comic panels. Let me show you something here. Let me show you an example of just how ridiculous this can get. And I love it. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. So there is an issue where she's going up against Dr. Bong, who is, of course, a Howard the Duck villain. That was another rule, by the way, of the Sensational She-Hulk comics, was that she couldn't go up against any A-list villains, only like B, C, through Z-list villains. The cheesier, the better. So she had to go up against Dr. Bong in issue 5, no less, making mention of the fact that Fantastic Four and Spider-Man got Dr. Doom in their 5 issues, so she thought she was getting Dr. Doom. No, she got Dr. Bong. So anyway, she's on the run from him with some other people, and she basically rips through the pages of the comic, and they end up making their way to escape across an ad for back issues. So they're like running along the bottom, and one of them's like, "Ow! I skinned my shin on the staple," and stuff like that. So it's just, that's the kind of fourth wall silliness you get in the Sensational She-Hulk, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So it's funny when I see people confused or outraged by the TV show. I watch the TV show and I'm like, this is the She-Hulk series I've always wanted. I think they don't get it. They don't understand that She-Hulk is a Deadpool-type character who addresses the audience, and there's a lot of humor in it. Whereas Deadpool is more kind of raunchy and violent. She-Hulk is more kind of lighthearted and fun, I guess, would be the way to describe it. But they're both kind of related in that they are fourth wall breaking characters. And by the way, if you were wondering about what I meant in the beginning, She-Hulk is, of course, Bruce Banner's cousin, or Jennifer Walters is, of course, Bruce Banner's cousin, hence related. Haha, yeah, anyway. But that's what a lot of people don't seem to be realizing, is that first off, this isn't Disney going woke or whatever, and it's like, oh, they're emasculating the Hulk. No, they're not. They're really not. The whole Professor Hulk thing, that's pretty much right out of the comics, too. I can't count how many times. Trust someone who's actually been reading all of the old comics, okay? I can't count how many times Hulk has, Banner has modified the Hulk in some pseudo-scientific gobbledygook way so that he retains his intelligence while being in the body of the Hulk. That's happened countless times in the comics. So Professor Hulk, it's right in tune with that. Not to mention the fact, like, in the comics, that's like something that they would do for a while, and then he would revert back to the Savage Hulk that we know. That's going to happen in the shows and movies as well. Everybody needs to just chillax. This Professor Hulk thing is just for a while. Also, bear in mind, the aforementioned issues with Universal holding the rights to the Hulk means there's not a lot they can do with him right now. So doing Professor Hulk was kind of a concession in a way, where they could have the character, but in a slightly modified way that didn't step on Universal's toes. The whole thing about rights management for properties like this is so complex. None of us will ever fully understand all of it. Suffice it to say, if you want to point the fingers at somebody, blame Universal. So the rumor is, though, that they might be losing their rights to the Hulk sometime soon, because, quite frankly, they haven't done jack shit with him since 2003. I mean, they did lease the Hulk to Marvel so they could do the 2008 movie, but they haven't done anything since 2003, so I don't know. I'm hoping that the rights will finally revert back to Marvel. Then we can get some proper Hulk action going again. In the meantime, I am loving She-Hulk. And I have to say, again, as someone who reads the comics, the show is pitch perfect. Like, it is absolutely spot on. Same kind of goofy, silly humor and fourth wall breaking as the comics. So, yeah, at the time of this recording, the first 3 episodes have aired. I haven't seen the rest of them yet, but really looking forward to checking it out. I'm loving it so far. Even that twerking scene. And I hate twerking. But I like that because it's right in tune with the kind of cheesy character that She-Hulk's always been. You know? So just lighten up and have some fun, people. Come on. Don't take everything so seriously. If we need more of anything in today's world, it's laughter. So don't be such a stick in the mud, eh? Just have some fun. And She-Hulk's fun. Okay? Anyway, if you like the show or you've ever been curious about the comics, this is a great jumping on point, because this is the start of the She-Hulk that we know as the fourth wall breaking character. And by the way, speaking of Deadpool, She-Hulk did it about 10 years before Deadpool. Yeah. So if you're saying, oh, they're just ripping off Deadpool, no, actually they're not. Deadpool, much like She-Hulk, started off as, in that case, as a parody character, a parody of Deathstroke from DC, who was like a mercenary type character. So Deadpool was meant to be a parody of that, and he was, a little bit wisecracking and stuff, but he wasn't like a full-on fourth wall breaking comedy character like he is now. That wasn't until a few years later when they did a reinvention of the character, much like they did with She-Hulk. They actually have very similar histories, the two of them. The only difference is She-Hulk didn't start off as a parody character. It was we better come up with a female Hulk before someone else does character. And then she proved to be super popular. So, I mean, she's been a member of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. Has had several solo books over the years. And, yeah. So, anyway, really enjoying this. I only ever had that one issue that I showed you a little snippet of there, the one where she fights Dr. Bong. And just reading that, I was like, I need to read more of this. And I just never got around to picking them up. So I'm overjoyed that they're finally putting out Epic collections. There's already a next volume, a volume 4, on the slate for sometime next year. So needless to say, I will be grabbing that. It has the next batch of issues of Sensational She-Hulk. And Sensational She-Hulk was pretty popular. It ran for 60 issues. So that's not too bad. And I mean... yeah, I mean, as you could see with the covers, I mean, even just the gags on the covers, you can see there's like fourth wall breaking there, and you can immediately see the kind of tone that the series has, and yeah, and the TV show honestly absolutely nails it. So I mean, some people are saying, yeah, well, it's not funny. It's like, okay, humor is subjective. I think it's freaking hilarious personally. Anyway, that is it from me to you for now. As always, if you'd like to add either of these to your collection, I will include Amazon links in the description below. I might as well also include Amazon links for the next volume of this, so you can pre-order it if you want. And, yeah, great stuff. Love me some Hulk. Can you tell? Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Don't forget to click thanks if you'd like to support the show with a couple bucks or whatever. Really appreciate it. It all adds up and it all helps. Helps me get more stuff that I can do videos about for you. I don't get freebies. I'm not one of those lucky streamers that gets freebies. I get nothing. Anything you see, I got to buy out of my own pocket. So thanks for those of you who make that possible. Be sure to catch me on Twitch. I stream just about every day. And I will see you next time. Until then, sayonara.